you know, because you do these things, and at a certain point, you do want to start over, you know, and you want to try something different. And sometimes that pays off, sometimes it doesn't, and that's the life of the storyteller. And when it does, for me at least, it's extremely moving. I love communicating with people because I normally don't communicate, and it's beautiful. So then 10 hours plane ride, 1 hour plane ride, no, a shorter boat ride, no shower, and when I did shower this morning though.
Octavia, I noticed there's a little the help joke in there. I wonder if that was put in there for you to be able to have that fantastic response that you guys have.
I don't know. What's funny is when I met with Guillermo, I knew nothing about the part at all, and to play a woman. This will be my third time playing someone from the '60s, and very. Even though I've played a woman or different women from that time period, she felt very different because Guillermo and Vanessa allowed me to have a point of view and. Not be so subjugated, even though we were the subordinates. You know, he allowed me to have a point of view and, you know, ramble on and be the queen of the domain. And so she was the help. She was the help on the domain, on the crown. You know,
She was the hero.
She was the queen of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to Hollywood in 1985 thinking I was going to be a sitcom star, the goofy next door neighbor. And it was people like Guillermo del Toro who have found me this tall. I am the goofy neighbor. Come to think of it. Well, but not on TV.
I'm Kramer.
Right. But with a mime background and being 6'3.5" and 140 pounds, that the creature effects people took to me immediately. With you know, being able to build monsters on me and not get too bulky, and having a sense of movement and a sense of my body and how to move in it. So I met Guillermo 20 years ago on Mimic, doing some reshoots for that. And this is now my 6th film with him because he's made the mistake of coming back for me this many times, bless his heart. Some direction notes that he gave me. Since we've done so much together, we have kind of a shorthand. He'll give me a couple of key words, and I'll log those in. This time it was, I want you to channel a little bit of the Silver Surfer, which I played in the Fantastic Four sequel, because that was the most subtle, strong character I've ever played. He said a little bit of that with a little bit of Matador. So he said, I never want you standing straight up and down. I want you to have sexy hips, and matadors, they're smooth, they're graceful, and they're powerful. You know, he wanted that with a raw, animalistic sort of performance, as opposed to a flourishy performance with great dialogue. I also had silent dialogue with Sally. We had our whole relationship was nonverbal, but tons of dialogue that was visual and heartfelt.
Very sexy hips.
Yeah. And sexy hips, right? On both of us.
Mind-blowing.
Okay.
I actually like a character like that. I grew up as an only child, and I entertained myself. I daydreamed my entire life. I used to say to my father, who was an only child, I'm bored. And he said, go watch the ants. And I used to go outside and watch the ants for hours and hours. And I would create these worlds. So, I mean, I love isolated people. I understand them. So no, it was a gift. Yeah, and you know, and my friend never said a word in the movie, so I had to talk. Yeah, I would say this again. Everybody says, "Oh, Sally, you're so good." Look, I said my dialogue and hers.
Guillermo never asked me to play a villain. He said, "I want you to play this guy who works for the government in the '60s, and he's struggling. He wants to succeed. He's got a family. He's under a lot of pressure. He kind of embodies this anxiety, this American anxiety. You know, on the surface is this kind of bulletproof kind of veneer, and underneath it is a lot of uncertainty, and because there is that uncertainty, it leads to a certain violence. I think that's a lot of times is the gestation of violence is uncertainty. So yeah, I didn't think about it like a villain. I thought about it like something else.
It was gestating for so long, and the idea was to show in the movie that 1962 is the time that Americans go back in their imagination when they say, let's make America great again. Because it's the moment that the fantasy of America almost crystallized. This idea of the man of the future with, jet fin cars, with super fast ovens, convenience houses, perfectly coiffed wives, all this idea, if you're white, Anglo-Saxon, and Protestant, it's a great time to be alive. If you're not, if you're anything else, it's pretty bad, So that's, the idea is to say that was then and it's now. There's so many things that I was afraid or not habilitated to try in the past. Is 25 years of craft, because there's nothing else, and then you go, I'm gonna let my hair loose. When your hair is thinning, you go, let's go, and you really do it. And I think that the only possibility of successfully doing something is being so close to failure that it feels like a failure. So many times in the set, so many of us looked at each other going, what the fuck are we doing? And that's a sign of, like, Richard and I would always say, well, I don't know if it's gonna work, but I like it, It's like, is he a god? I don't know if he's a god. He ate a cat. It's the same thing. It's like, but you're in service of something stronger than you. Like, the story has to be stronger than you, and your certainty has to be stronger than anybody else's, because the story speaks to you, not because it's you. You just say, look, this is what it needs, not me. And then you actually feel carried on.
There's like a shade of romanticism in the whole movie. So what's your experience, Richard and Michael?
You mean dramas like Step Brothers that I did?
When I was doing Kangaroo Jack, I went to one of the darkest places I've ever been. It's called Australia. So I just wanted to go. It was like a magic carpet ride, I don't have a cynical view of the world or life or people. I'm as romantic as anybody, and I welcome all of you to find that out for yourselves.
Just let me say, that's true. It is true. I grew up looking at movies, not like this, but this made me feel like I was in a movie that I watched growing up by one of the great masters. And the romance in this movie, whatever it was, never felt cheesy. It always felt alive and real, and it was easy to play. It was easy in this movie to fall in love.
This, that, the person that's without a voice and the most probably easily dismissible and is the one that once, her heart breaks open with love and it's transported, and there's such a power in silence and truth of heart and also femininity, and that, like water, it's able to sort of find its way. And I never think there's enough of that. And putting that at the heart and the core of a film, and I just found that quite moving as well. And then she's overwhelmed by this strength that she didn't really realize was possible. And like I keep saying it again and again. It's a cliche, but there's love. Love is, able to, she's able to literally tear through walls with it.
What I knew very early on is I wanted to make her silent, because love renders you speechless. When you really fall in love, words have no size enough to grasp the size of your emotion. But because I think you're never as certain and as afraid as you are when you fall in love, The two things are overwhelming, and it's an emotion that is unique and healing. And I think that when you think about the only way we can express in words what we feel emotionally when you're in love is by singing. Telling someone you love that person more than anything in the world, You can say it over and over again and it doesn't reach. But if you sing, the emotion it gels. That's why in Mexico we serenade.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,